Welcome back to the channel and thank you for watching, and I would be really grateful if you hit that like button at any point you find this video useful, and make sure you're subscribed, otherwise you won't receive new videos. So in this video I would like to talk a little bit again about incident 9, which is the staircase incident in which it was alleged that Johnny Depp was hitting Amber Heard hard and repeatedly with a cast on his hand. Remember, following his finger incident in Australia. Only this time I'd like to show you a direct comparison between what the original claim said as against what Amber said in court whilst being cross-examined about this incident, having not mentioned that Johnny Depp was wearing the cast on his hand, and then what the judge said in his findings. So turning to the judgment first of all, which contains those allegations, turning to this section here. So this is from the Reamended Defense, which contains those allegations against Johnny Depp. Now this here, first of all, says the claimant, Johnny Depp, also hit Miss Heard hard and repeatedly. Now those words are important for reasons that will become obvious because, well, actually I'll tell you now, because if someone were hit hard and repeatedly, particularly with a cast, although notably this doesn't mention the cast, but I'm going to come back to that in a moment. If someone were hit hard and repeatedly in a given incident, one might think that this was a particularly memorable incident, which indeed Amber Heard accepts in her evidence in a moment. But again, as I said, I'm going to come back to that and directly compare the three of these documents. So moving back to that judgment once again, looking at this allegation here. So, hard and repeatedly were the words used in these allegations within the defense which contain the allegations against Johnny Depp. When the claimant then lunged, the claimant being Johnny Depp, when Johnny Depp then lunged to hit Amber Heard again, Amber's sister placed herself between them to interrupt the fight. Johnny Depp then turned his attention to Amber Heard's sister, who was standing at the top of the flight of stairs. Johnny Depp reached out and shoved Amber's sister, causing Amber to believe that Johnny was about to push her sister down the stairs. Now, bearing in mind that I've discussed previously that there are different accounts of this, notably in the Virginia trial, Amber's sister said that Johnny Depp punched her in the back, and whereas in her witness statement in the UK trial, she said that he pulled her backwards, neither of which sound like they could be together true. But moving back to the documents here, now I'm going to show you and look at the actual transcript, which I will link in the description below. It's a lengthy document, but this particular section here is taken from day 11 of the UK trial. This is a portion of the cross-examination of Amber Heard about this particular incident. The barrister cross-examining Amber Heard is Miss Laws, and where you see A here, it is Amber Heard answering the question, Q, another question, and Mr. Justice Nicol, obviously the judge in the case. So Miss Laws asks, he could not possibly have been grabbing you by the hair with one hand and punching you with the other, as you've described, could he? And that's because if you look just above here, they remind the court that his hand was in a cast at this time. Amber says, I disagree with you. He did. The question was, it is a complete lie, is it not? The judge often interrupts to either clarify an answer to a question or make a note of it and so on. So judge just clarifying, you agree or disagree with the proposition that it's a lie. Amber says, I firmly disagree. He grabbed me by the hair with his hand and hit me with the cast. He also hit Whitney with the cast. Question, he hit you with the cast? Amber says, yes, it's a hard plaster cast. It does not feel pleasant. She says, he hit you with a hard plaster cast. The judge steps in and says, I think you said he hit Whitney with the cast as well, just to clarify so that the judge is making a note of the evidence. Amber Heard answers, yes, and I said it was especially unpleasant. Now, bearing in mind these words here, the way that she's described it, especially unpleasant, moving back to the claim once more, or the allegations within the Reamended Defense, hard and repeatedly is the way it was described here, and especially unpleasant is the way she described it in cross-examination. Miss Laws continues, we've put your statement away in which you deal with this incident. You do not mention the fact you were hit in full in the face, as was your sister with a plaster cast. You do not mention it, do you? Amber says, I do not think it's in the statement. Well, I know it's not in the statement because I can turn to the statement. So now we will turn to the statement. This is Amber's statement, her first witness statement in which she deals with this staircase incident. She says here, I remember Johnny and I were shouting at each other, and at some point he started hitting me. Everything happened very quickly. I recall Whitney standing between Johnny and I. He was trying to attack me on the mezzanine level. He pushed Whitney out of the way so he could reach me. She had her back to the stairs, so I remember being scared that she was going to fall down. I lunged at Johnny to stop him from hurting my sister and struck him to protect her. She then says, Johnny grabbed me by the hair with one hand and hit me repeatedly in the head with the other. His security stepped in and separated us. So this wording here, separated us, as a side note, goes against a finding later on that Johnny's security were just working for him. As I've said in a previous video, security staff would be minded to protect any party that is around the VIP, the very important person that they are there to protect. And in Amber's own words in this statement, that's exactly what they did. They stepped in and separated them. So moving back to that document once again, separated us. Whitney stayed with me the night after the incident. Now, there's two things about this statement here. First of all, Amber does not say anything about the cast on his hand. If that were the case, I would expect that to be in the statement quite clearly. As she said in evidence, it was particularly unpleasant. If someone were hitting you, as the claim put it, moving back to the claim, if someone were hitting you hard and repeatedly with a hard plaster cast, which she described in cross-examination as being especially unpleasant, I would expect it to have been in her witness statement, which in a civil trial in the UK is deemed to be the full evidence in chief in these cases. But she didn't. She didn't mention that in this statement at all. This was clearly a point of cross-examination by Miss Laws. So Miss Laws goes on, no, you do not, as in she does not put it in the statement. Amber says, I think it might be in other statements or in Whitney's statement. Miss Laws say, no, it's not in the statement. Once again, Amber says, again, I did not include every detail or every thought or every item of clothing or accessory used in the violence. There were so many. So a broad sweeping statement to sort of excuse why details were left out. Then Miss Laws goes on to clarify, just one more question, if I may. If you were hit in the face, struck as you suggest, with Mr. Depp's hand in a cast, it would be a primary feature of the assault which you would want to record, would it not? Amber Heard answers, no. This was weeks after the Australia incident, which he used the same hand before the cast to paint bloody messages all over the walls. So just pausing there. So Amber's excuse as to why she didn't mention the cast in this alleged repeated hard attack that was especially unpleasant was because he'd used his hand to paint bloody messages on the walls. But I don't accept that, and I don't think many people would accept that, because it's a separate incident. If it was an alleged repeated hard in the face attack, which she described as being especially unpleasant, using a hard plaster cast, then that would be a primary feature I would expect to be in the witness statement. However, it isn't. This is her witness statement account for that event. She does say here, Johnny grabbed me by the hair with one hand and hit me repeatedly in the head with the other. My suggestion to you is that she wrote this without thinking about him being with his hand in a cast, without thinking that not only would it have been painful for him to do that, but probably just not practical to do that at all. But if he did do that with his hand in a cast, I suggest it would be a much harder hit in the face with a hard plaster cast on your hand, in which it would be a prominent feature of that alleged attack to include in this statement. But she didn't. So as a barrister, I would have done exactly the same as this cross-examination went and put that to her that she didn't put it in the statement. Therefore, she's made it up. That would be my line of cross-examination. It's not in the statement. It doesn't make sense. Therefore, it's more likely she made it up. Just as the police caution goes, it may harm your defense when you fail to mention when questioned something you later rely on in court, and anything you say may be given in evidence. She didn't mention it earlier on when she had all the time in the world to sit down and make this statement. She didn't mention it then. She mentioned it later. The inference drawn is that she made it up. However, now we move to the judge's findings on Incident 9. So, having looked at Amber's statement and the cross-examination, the account is referred to here, and ultimately the judge found that this did happen, and there were several reasons the judge put in here for that being the case, but one of them, in particular reference to what Amber said in cross-examination and in her statement, is this paragraph here. While Ms. Heard did not mention the cast in her first witness statement for these proceedings, nor was it mentioned in any of her subsequent statements, she did refer to it in the declaration for the Virginia proceedings. In any event, her omission to mention this aspect was, she said, because she did not in her witness statement include all the details. She said that in any event it was a minor incident in comparison with what happened a few weeks earlier. Remember the few weeks earlier bit being Johnny writing on the wall in blood. So a separate incident entirely, a separate alleged assault, repeated attack as we've just described. And the judge here says, I accept these explanations for why in her statement she did not mention that matter. But when she was asked about this omission in her evidence, she explained that what was memorable was that this was the first time she'd seen him violent to her sister. But I would, with the greatest respect to the learned judge, I find that really difficult to believe. Maybe it's because I'm not a high court judge. I'm just a humble barrister. But now that a jury has heard all of the same evidence, I feel much safer in that a jury has found that the statements in respect of Johnny Depp were defamatory. And therefore you can draw from that these events didn't happen, and that they believed Johnny Depp in his testimony that these didn't happen. And so I thought you might find it interesting to go through that cross-examination evidence and compare it directly with the statement and then the judge's findings, which is what we as lawyers do. That is how it played out in court, that very small segment, bearing in mind there were lots of different, bearing in mind there was a lot of evidence given and cross-examination undertaken throughout that trial. But I thought you might find that particular incident interesting to go through because of the stark contrast in the statements and the evidence. Notably that the allegation said that it was hard and repeated, and Amber had said that it was especially unpleasant, and despite all that, she didn't mention the cast at all in her statement. I suspect that had that really been the case, that somebody would have mentioned that in the statement. Maybe you can tell me in the comments whether you think that's the case as well, and whether you think that really would have been in the statement had that really happened. But either way, I thought that'd be another interesting overview for you. This is something I find fascinating, to compare the transcripts of the cross-examination with the witness statement and the judgment. And if you do like this, let me know in the comments. Please like the video and subscribe, hit the bell icon, all of that sort of stuff. Share it with somebody. And if you like these cross comparisons with the evidence, I'll do many more. And I'll try to give my thoughts as I have done along the way. In the meantime, I thank you for your time. I thank you for watching, and please join me next time.